Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Round the Grid. Today we are hopefully gonna just blitz through this second season. It's turned out to be a lot easier than anticipated. Probably also helped by the fact that we did pick up Yamamoto, the fact that we did do some staff poaching. But we are now in 1.9, which should reduce the problems with staff poaching a little bit. And if we take a look right now at scouting and take a look here, there are some people who are still interested. Most of them are not. Basically, if they're on a 1-year contract like Ian Gregg here, they will be. But we'll have a little bit of a harder time picking up peak staff, and probably also the same with the drivers, and that should keep things a little bit more interesting for future seasons. Now, this is now on patch 1.9, which added a couple of new features, namely the most interesting one, which is the pit lane starts. We're probably going to take a quick look at that during this episode as well. But another feature that they did add is the driver development focuses. And I did make a video on this, going through it more deeply, but basically, driver development is training as it's always been. It focuses on developing the driver to become better, improve overall. Car development, basically you sacrifice some of your driver's development rate. Basically, it lowers the development rate as long as you have the focus active, and you get a faster car part development. And it does not really seem to have any negative connotation for the expertise, which is great. And drive preparation goes up for race weekends. Basically, it's easier to get that good setup. Marketability is also pretty straightforward. It boosts your driver's marketability rating. And also, if they're in part of a sponsored plan, they get an engagement boost. Probably not something I would recommend for your main drivers, though, because, again, it does take away their stats and mentality, most of them. So it's not great for that reason, but we'll probably start using these going into the future. Right now, we do have a bunch of affiliates that the game gave us. So we're going to go ahead here and put these affiliates on car development, at least 3 of them. Now, we'll also take a look and see just how 60 rated affiliates are going to handle car development. We'll do that at the end of the season, take a little bit of a close look at that. And also we're going to take the other 2 here and put them on marketability. Because that basically means that if we have basically when we have a sponsored plan, these guys can take the role of doing the marketability. They're basically going to get a marketability boost. They're going to have more of a sponsored plan effect, and that's going to be great. Now, car development, you can only have 3 drivers, so pick them with care. And, well, it would be tempting to do Albin, honestly, because let's face it, he is getting to a point now where he doesn't actually have the best development rate. And honestly, I think that might be a good idea because it would be fun to test. So we'll take Carry back here, and we're going to go ahead and move him over to marketability. That opens up a slot for development, and we're going to do that with Albin. I'm also going to test a little bit over the course of the season to see kind of if him now getting low development rate is going to lower his stats more drastically, but also the fact that we'll see just how quickly setups work. Does it give a setup buff when you do setup manually? Things like that. But with that said, I think we are ready to just get through this. Now, as I mentioned here, we have definitely got a car that is already very, very competitive. There's not really much we can do at the moment. I'm going to be honest, we are probably going to kind of dominate this season. We are still waiting to get the front wing. We're still waiting to get, well, we're basically just upgrading our suspension a little bit further. And already we can see that the driver contribution is 3%. This is going to build up over a month, though, and it is going to make these projects go a lot quicker. Now, financially, we are actually kind of strained. So I think, for the time being, I'm just going to leave these 2 design slots open until after Japan. But I am going to develop the car. We do want to make Williams competitive going into the next season here. They're not going to be super competitive because, let's face it, it's a big regulation season. But we'll see what we can do. With that said, I'm going to simulate some of the next couple of races here, see how things go, and how the car develops over the course of this season. I am also going to take a look at the editor at the end. We did take a look at the editor at the end of last episode. I'm going to start using it a little bit more at the start of seasons, at the end of seasons, to kind of see how the AI develops, how we have developed, and kind of what we can expect from the season to come. So, sorry for all my yapping here at the start. I'm going to jump straight into it now, get through a couple of races, and then we'll see how this season shapes up for us. So this second season is when we get that big regulation change, and honestly, I want to go for 70-50. That's a nicer number than 55-65. So that is what I will be voting for. Is chassis versus side pod. Let's go for the chassis overhaul. That's going to be fine. We don't know if the AI will vote with us, but I have a hope. And also, we had a bit of an interesting result here when we simulated this season. As you can see, Verstappen, sorry, I'm a little bit lost there. Basically, we had a really bad result recently, and I am struggling to find it. But basically, you can see we had 10 and 4 points. Verstappen won. We did actually pretty poorly. I made a mistake and didn't actually record the result. So it is a feeling that I've had since 1.9 that they've kind of made simulating a little bit harder, in the sense that simulating will no longer give you the perfect results it usually does. And I'm looking forward to seeing if that actually does have some merit. It could just be me having a streak of bad luck, but if it does, that would actually kind of good, because simulating has been probably a little bit easier than it should be. But it would be weird that there's no patch notes about it. But yeah, our first race for this episode did not go too well. Verstappen won, he's closing the gap. Let's see here what the regulation change is going to be before we speed off to the next race weekend. Front wing design has been completed too, which is basically covering that final weakness of ours. I'm going to go ahead and rush 2 of these, that way we get it for both cars going into China. That should be fine. We do have a little bit more money now. And I do believe that we do want to start another front wing. We're still going to use safety time on the rear wing by design, but the other 3 periods are going to be used on research to try and make Williams a little bit more competitive going into the next season, so to speak. That's what we'll do straight up, and as you can see, the time has been cut down to 40 days. The buff is improving, minus 12% now, and I'm going to put as many engineers that we have on this. There we are. We also started another chassis, another sidepod design. We're probably going to do 1 more of each after these complete. And basically do the same for the suspension here. We're going to go up to the 5th version for basically chassis, sidepods, and suspension. And then we're going to focus on research after that. We basically have a formula that's been working pretty well. And that's kind of what I'm going to try and do here. Yeah, rest-wise, we are falling behind. And it could be that that is one of the sources from the simulation. So I'll have to test that. But the car is really, really good. Let's see what we can do here in China. Even with our new front wing, it wasn't actually enough to get victory here in China. Yamamoto in 2nd, Albon down in 5th, and with that, Verstappen has now caught up. And we have a little bit of a champion fighter on our hands, I guess you could say. Constructors-wise, we're still slightly in the lead, but the season might get a little bit closer than anticipated, and as mentioned, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the results are going to shape up. I think I'll give you a little bit of an update as each race progresses. And honestly, we could be seeing something a little bit more interesting on the horizon. However, I think once we get Yamamoto to peak confidence, which is probably going to happen once we start building some facilities and also doing a little bit of refurbishments, let's be honest, a lot of these stuff here is basically broken. So I think we're going to make some changes also before we go into next season. As mentioned, make the AI refurbish their stuff. But yeah, this season might get a little bit closer than I intended, and I'm going to have to take a quick look at how the first couple of sims went in the last episode, because this seems quite a lot harder. But let's see what Miami has to offer, and as mentioned a little bit later in this episode, we are going to take a look at the new pit lane starts, but that'll be an issue for later once we've actually destroyed some of our car parts. While we're getting there, that's probably still far out. In Miami, however, we are so back. We got a 1-2 here, and Verstappen has a pretty bad one. He ends up down in 17th, so I would definitely assume some damage to the car. Sainz doesn't even finish, neither does the RB. So it's a little bit of an interesting situation here. We'll have to see if we get a little bit of a comeback. Now, because I've also uninstalled every single one of my mods at the moment, the HHG logo has been a little bit destroyed here, so yeah, that'll have to be fine. They're just now a black dot with, I guess, a tailpipe. But yeah, 1-2. Let's see if we can keep the streak going. So we're taking a little bit of a detour here into the driver focuses, as we do now have a sponsor plan. A bit of time has passed, And we actually do have some affiliates here that do have some contribution from their current private development focus. So you can see Greco here, we have Boya, we also have Bak, and they do give certain levels of extra engagement. In this case, Bak has the highest with 552 extra, but we also have Boya and we also have Greco, so you can argue that getting a couple of affiliates here, putting them on mentality, is incredibly strong and also incredibly viable in the sense that you can now focus engagement sponsorships. I really haven't been recommending that in the past, simply because it was very hard to get it to work, if you will. But now, with how things are looking, it seems like it's definitely possible. If you say pick up even some cheap affiliates here, Boya and Greco hasn't really gotten that high up, but Back here has definitely gotten the boost here, so to speak. So test out a couple of different facilities, affiliates. Keep the ones that give huge boosts like Back here, and you could probably use engagement as a good source now of income. So yeah, I do like this. Marketability is a good new one. Let's see how the others work out later on. Our streak, however, from last race got immediately deleted as Verstappen takes the win in Italy. We do get second, however, Albon down in sixth, so it's not all bad. But this is going to be a bit of a close fight this year, it turns out. Probably a little bit closer, again, than what last episode kind of gave us the impression of. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here. I actually do have an inkling feeling here that if I simulate the entire season, we're probably going to end up losing. So we're probably going to have to do some race manually, but then that's good because that gives me a good... That does give me a good excuse, so to speak, to actually focus on the pit stop stuff. Sorry, not pit stop, pit lane. Again, thinking and doing things at the same time. Not my strong suit. There we go, suspension has been made. We're already making chassis side pods, and we are also going to, as I mentioned here, put a CFD period into the rear wing. The rest of the CFD periods are going to be used on research. We're going to put one set of research into rear wing, front wing, and probably underfloor, and then just run the rest normally. And that should hopefully be enough that we get the boost that we need. As you can see, we're not getting a huge gain here in stats, and I do feel like I always need to kind of say this whenever I do CFD time. This seems very underwhelming, right? We put in this much CFD time, and we're not getting any progress. But CFD, again, you guys probably don't need to be told this, but it's so unintuitive that I do kind of need to tell you this. The CFD doesn't actually apply to this part. It doesn't really buff it much at all. What it is going to buff is your next design after this one. So once this design finishes, we make another, and that one should be fairly amazing. So let's just get this started. We're going to put engineers on it. And as you see, driver contribution now is up to about 16%, which I think is going to be our cap for this one. And these buffs are also going to apply to research. So we might make it a little bit more of a competitive enemy, if you will, going into next season. We also do have some powertrain issues here, but as I mentioned, we kind of do need to use all of these before we get in trouble. And we do have a regulation here where we have extra engine, extra gearbox, and also extra ERS. So really, we shouldn't need to buy any extra components, but I'm definitely going to make it happen because we're going to test two things with pit lane starts here. Number one is just switching a engine, for instance, after park firm. The second one is going to be to get a pit lane start penalty and a grid penalty at the same time, because currently there is a bug with that, and I want to test that out myself here. So let's see how next race goes. As I said, probably going to take these panels second half season. I'm thinking around Baku, so hang tight until then. Monaco gave us another second place, and I am starting to see a little bit of a pattern here forming. Verstappen 50 seconds up the road. It's not great, let's put it like that. Albon is down in sixth, and as mentioned, we're starting to see a little bit of a pattern. We still have the lead, but by the next couple of races, if this keeps on going like this, we are going to be losing out a little bit. And Red Bull is definitely closing the gap quite a lot because Sainz is, well, also on the podium. But I have hopes, and I think for now, I'm going to just allow the next 4 or 5 races to run the course as they usually do. And we'll take a look at the situation. I don't know if updating like this after every single race is the correct thing to do. I feel like it just gets a little bit too cluttered. Seeing each individual result is really nice, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it gets a little bit repetitive probably. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I do have a lot of doubts on how I make videos. I do want to improve, and that's probably why I'm overthinking things. So I do appreciate any input that you guys have. But yeah, let us speed up a little bit here. We're done with Monaco. Let's see if we keep up with Red Bull over the next 4 race weekends, or if they leave us in the dirt. After a bit of a lackluster result in Monaco, we continued that trend, and over the next 3 races we didn't really have any good luck, but neither did really Red Bull. And while Silverstone was a good one for us with the 1-2, and both Red Bulls kind of out of the mix here completely, with double DNF from Alpine, courtesy of Floof, things are looking kind of interesting. I'm still a little bit unsure. Simulation-wise, it seems a little bit weird, but we are currently in charge of the Constructor Championship. We have 10 points of Red Bull, mostly to the fact that they had such a terrible Silverstone run, because as you can see, we're 10 points ahead, but we scored 44 points more than them. So we were behind up to this point. Same here with Yamamoto in the championship. And honestly, it's going to be very interesting to see how the simulation actually behaves towards the end of this. Now, what I personally think is happening here is that the AI might be using the focuses, and they might actually be using them correctly in one way. And what I mean by this is that if we take a look at the focuses again for the drivers, I think the AI might be using the car development focus to great effect. Now, generally, as I said here, I've done a little bit of testing after the patch came out, and I feel simulations have become harder in the sense that AI score better results. This might just be me, though. If you've had similar, or if you agree or disagree, basically if you had similar experiences or you haven't, please let me know. But if what's happening is actually what's happening, like the simulation has gotten harder, I can imagine that car development here might actually be the reason why, in the sense that the AI are now setting up a lot better for the races themselves, which would be funny, but it would actually be great if it kind of works that way, because we're having a close fight with Red Bull. And honestly, I didn't really expect that as much. I've said that a few times. Didn't expect it. We still have a excuse me. We still have a fairly decent advantage here. Red Bull has a little bit more top speed. We have a pretty large amount of low speed on them. We have a large amount of medium. We have a small amount of high speed. But the advantage that we have here, I would have expected us to be further ahead, particularly since Yamamoto is almost getting to Verstappen's level. And basically with enthusiasm at a maximum, we're basically there. So it's kind of a weird one, but it does work at the moment. Let's just put it like that. Now, I also have some other news. We are getting a sporting regulation change, and this one could make this challenge a lot easier. The reason for that is very, very simple. This is CFD and wind tunnel allocations, and the suggested changes give more CFD and wind tunnel time to the teams that perform more poorly. In this sense, this translates to 20 days and 15 days added, so another extra month of development added to whichever part you invest CFD into, if you do all the CFD. That's huge. That is huge. You have an extra half a year of development that you're getting with this regulation change. So, of course, we're going to vote for this. It's going to be probably kind of hilarious down the road if we get that one true, but I'd like to see it. But yeah, we're at Hungary. Things are looking good. I think we're going to kind of breeze through summer break here. We have started with research here. I've started doing the front wing. We are getting that final rear wing done in 5 days too, that we're going to put on the car. And generally here, it's looking very, very good. We are going to do a lot of research, or rather as much as my budget allows. We still only have 5 million in the bank. I haven't really actually been able to start doing anything with these facilities. I probably should go ahead and upgrade these two, though. They're kind of important. And they're also kind of cheap to do. So let's do it like this. But yeah, let's see what the next 5, 6, 7 races, or at least until something interesting happens, has to offer. And as I mentioned here, once we get probably down to Baku, Singapore, Austin, this streak, so to speak, of races, we're going to do some testing on the pit lane starts. But driver focuses seem to work very well. I did say that in the video as well. It's a nice addition. I do enjoy it. And if, again, my suspicions are correct here, this might really, really be helping the AI out. And if it does, I am all for it. Let's see what we can do in, well, the next few weekends. So our sporting regulation change here has actually been massively voted through. 9 out of 11 team voted for it. And last patch did have some changes to the AI voting logic, so I guess that makes sense. Reality here is you would expect the top 4 teams to say no. Ferrari and Red Bull voted no. We'll take a look at who the others are if we look at the standings, if I can find them. So Red Bull and Ferrari voted no. McLaren voted yes. I guess they kind of feel like they might be in danger from Aston. That's the only way that really makes sense. But basically, I do kind of like that. We might actually get more benefits for the team at the bottom. So I'm looking forward to seeing if we get more regulation changes like that in future seasons. So quality has been completed here, and with that, we're now going to be messing around with the cars because we are going to do a pit lane start. Now, Albon already has pit lane start because I gave him a new ERS, but what we're actually going to do here is also get him another new ERS to kind of showcase a bit of a bug right now. So basically, this is going to give him a bit of a grid penalty, straight up. And the bug right now is very simple. You can't have a pit lane start and grid penalty at the same time, which means that we're going to get a pit lane start here in Baku, and then the next race is going to get a grid penalty. We'll take a look at that once we get there. But I want to talk just quickly about what gives you a pit lane start. And Frontier has actually done a fairly good job here, is all I can say, because everything here that has this blue symbol means that if you do any changes here, you're going to end up in trouble. Now, if I crash in quali and say destroy my chassis and just replace it with the same one, that would not end up in a pit lane penalty. You'd be fine. But if I change my chassis to say the C2 spec, that is pit lane penalty. So if you have the same part, you're fine. If you change an engine, ERS, gearbox, doesn't matter. If it's one that you have allocation for, it's a penalty. So don't do that. But it's pretty straightforward and simple. In this case, however, we are gonna install this one, because I just want to kind of showcase exactly what happens when you do this. Now, there is also another way that you can actually pick up a pit lane penalty, and that is by changing your setup. And here too, they have this very, very nice, if it's blue, don't touch it if you don't want a penalty. Basically, if you're starting in pit lane anyways, feel free to tweak your setups. You can do that as you see fit. And again, if you do this with, after quali has begun, you are going to end up in the pit lane. I'm probably just going to go make a video tomorrow that goes a little bit more in depth to this. But basically, I just wanted to showcase this feature a little bit today in this race. And we're also going to, of course, set up properly because I haven't done that yet. Now, we actually do have a little bit of an interesting problem right now, because we don't have the best situation, I guess you could say, when it comes to the championship. We're actually going to have a little bit of a fight on our hands. So as such, we need to kind of set up a strategy that can deal with that. And honestly, I think we're just going to go full send, soft, medium, soft. And while this is going to be quite a lot quicker than the base strategy, this should work out really, really well also, due to the fact that we are, in fact, pit lane starting. So we want to try and make up as much on the softs here, pit early, and then do the same with basically every tire. So we'll do the same for both cars. There's not really any difference here in strategy. There's no need for any difference. And I am going to use the soft tire first, purely as I mentioned, because we do need to make up places early, and if the earlier we pit here, the better it would be. Unless, of course, we make up a pit stop to the last car within the first 16 laps, which is doable. Don't get me wrong. But I think we'll be fine here. We have fresh engines, we have fresh parts. Let's see how the pit lane start actually is going to treat us here.
Well, it's great to have you with us, folks. Here we go with the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
That's one Red Bull. Where's the other one? We are parked in the pit lane. Yamamoto furthest ahead. Science leads the pack away. We get the green light now that everyone has passed. which is how it's supposed to work. Exiting pit lane straight up. And let's face it, we're going to lose some time to the cars ahead. That's just the nature of the situation. But they have got the pit stops down, I dare say. And we've already caught up to the back of the rest here. Because, as mentioned, it's pretty straightforward and simple. For us, we have a very, very good car. Now, we are going to, of course, as I mentioned, suffer a bit here for a few reasons. But I think we will be able to make up these positions, particularly once we get the RS involved. Verstappen is in 6th, Sainz is in 1st. Let's see if we can chase them down here. As we'll just be pushing until that first pit stop. The first pit stops have started to happen here. Sonoda, Sargent, and also Show. And with that, we have to kind of make a decision. Yamamoto is now up to 8th, and I think even if we do destroy these tires a little bit, that'll be fine. We are actually having higher degradation than expected, which is also due to the fact that we are pushing really, really hard. Now, for Yamamoto here, I think we are fine with just keeping her out. And honestly, the same kind of here for Albon. He's in a little bit of a squeezed situation, though. I have to be honest. So, I don't know what the play would be here, honestly. Currently, Yamamoto is running her own train. Albon is in 10th. I think we keep Albon out as long as possible, just to try and cause a little bit of pain, I'd say, to Verstappen. Leclerc has already pitted. He is a pit stop ahead of us, which is very, very painful. But also just the reality of the situation. If we pit early here, we might have to run a bit of a take care of our tires final soft stint. But that might actually be the play. In terms of time considerations, Baku has very short pit stops, just 19 seconds. And that would actually put us behind Tsunoda here, but in fresh air. And with not a lot of cars pitted. Well, Perez and Tsunoda have both pitted. It might actually be better to just eat the bullet here and stay out. And what I mean by that is just have better tire advantage towards the end. Let the others waste their tires a little bit. Because as it stands now for Yamamoto, we are going to come out, as mentioned, but in the middle of Tsunoda and Sargent, so about 35 seconds here. I think the play in this scenario is straight up just keep an eye on Sargent's lap times in comparison to Yamamoto and try and do 1-2 more laps. We don't want to get behind the Alpine train. That sounds like a bad time. But if we can time our pit stops in a bit of a better way here, that would be huge. Now, however, we're getting to the point where we should potentially consider pitting, because now we have Rick, we have Russell, both of them on fresh tires, Alonso on worn tires, and he's going to step out of the way. There is a little bit of a DRS train, but I think this is the time when we actually do pull the trigger. I still think we keep we keep Albon out a little bit longer. But if we can beat Rick out here, then we have a very, very good situation on our hands, I dare say. So we're actually going to use energy here to make sure that we push, we get out ahead, we get a little bit of free air. As mentioned, Alonso should pit within the next 2-3 laps. Maybe a little bit more than that. He's on the medium. And even if he doesn't, he should be easy pickings for us. Albon here, he is still holding up Verstappen somewhat. So I'm going to allow him to do this lap and then we'll pit him. Let's see how this stop of ours goes, as Bottas and Piastri has also pitted. Okay, clean stop. Do we beat Alonso out? We actually do beat Alonso out just straight up. So now we have 4 seconds up to Perez, Tsunoda. And again, just a lot of freedom here to keep on chasing cars down. I think Albon has done his job. I don't think he's keeping the Red Bull behind him for another lap. So we'll pit him as well. Yamamoto now has a beautiful chance to do a pit stop to a win. And as you see, you kind of see the fresh air here that we are loving, so to speak. And let's see now where Albon comes out, because he's going to be in a little bit of a tougher situation, I guess I can say. Going to come out all the way towards the back here, just barely ahead of Stroll. He is in a really, really bad train. If we had gotten basically a 3 more seconds there to Gasly, he would have had such a freer run here to get involved again. Now, on the other hand, he's going to have a pretty rough time. There's not really much we can do about that, but to just try and make the best out of it. Let's see if we can keep moving forwards a little bit. I think we'll harvest, get full of battery, and then start doing some overtakes. We are making some great strides here, I dare say. Yamamoto is now up into 6th place. We're still 13 seconds off the lead. But everyone ahead of us has yet to pit similarly as us. Leclerc, Rivas, both has to pit very, very soon. So we still, I think, have a decent chance. We are kind of getting held up, though, by Verstappen and Rivas. We're going to try and get that overtake done. Albon, too, has found himself some fresh air. He is moving forwards, doing a good job. Could probably benefit from deploying more battery, but I don't mind. It should be a-okay. But we definitely do need Yamamoto here to get these overtakes done. We do have better tires at the moment, and hopefully we can get maybe a bit of a move made right here. Be brave on the brakes. As Rivas actually dives in the pit, same with Leclerc. As mentioned, they kind of needed to. And now it's just 13 seconds to chase down Sainz. Verstappen is the big issue. I'm not going to lie here. But on the flip side, we do also want to get the Constructor's title, so we do need to try and chase down Sainz. If I do races manually here at the last quarter of the season, that should be enough, I think, for us to nail it here, because we are kind of doing a pit lane to a win here, potentially. It's still 13 seconds. We have a little bit of a half race distance to go. Sorry, a little bit less than half race distance to go. So a lot of things could still happen here. Sainz has just pitted, and this is kind of interesting to witness, because he's gone to a medium tire. And with 18 laps to go here, if you take a look at our strategy, we're basically going to be in this tire for 23 laps, and that has fully destroyed it. So Sainz will be in a little bit of trouble here. It's going to be incredibly quick in the beginning. There's just no way around that. But on the other hand, we should be able to chase him down again here. Verstappen also is running a very, very poor tire here. He's not having a good time. Albon is basically in his strategy, so to speak, in his window. He's going to be fighting. Him. But Yamamoto is looking really, really good right now. As mentioned, Sainz, Piastri both have pit. Same with Leclerc, Rivas here. So the reality of the situation is that we're in a tiny bit of trouble. I'm not gonna lie, but not enough that it should matter too much, and that is the big one. So let's see what we can do here. We are going to pit. We're going to go for a soft tire. We are probably going to take better care of that soft tire, probably run standard until say lap 40. And I think we'll do the same here for Albon. We'll get him in as well. Albon does not have, I believe, the best-ish window. We need to beat Gasly here. We're going to come out behind Verstappen. There's just no way around it. But that should be okay. If we are lucky here, Yamamoto will be able to beat Bottas and Hamilton out. That would be huge. That would be huge if we can pull that off. If not, it's still okay. It's just going to be a little bit more frustrating. Yeah, Albon is doing good. Yamamoto's going to do whatever she can to extend that gap going into the pit stop. But it's going to be really, really close here. That we could be in trouble with the Astons. Okay, where is Show? They just came around the corner. We are out ahead. That's huge. For Albon, bit of a slower stop, 2.7 seconds, but he does come out in fresh air ahead of Gasly. And with 13 seconds to kind of try and get something done here. Basically, I want him to chase down Verstappen. He's 5 seconds behind, but the higher up we can get, that would be huge. 13 seconds is the gap between our teammates here. If he can close that down and catch up to top 5, I would be very, very glad. Now, Yamamoto, on the other hand, is going to have the issue, of course, with the Astons being straight behind. If one does pull off an overtake, I think we're just going to recharge the battery. But the softs here are extremely powerful. We have Sainz on the medium. Piastri is also on a soft. Everyone on the medium ahead, with the exception of Piastri. And with that, I think we're going to see us taking some pretty big chunks out of the lead here. Hulkenberg with a failure. We're seeing a lot of failures down here, even with the extra added components, which is not great great to look at. And we did a 45.8, basically very similar to Sainz, which is not amazing, but also not too concerning. We could potentially run full attack here, but as you saw here, we lost out a little bit too quick, so I want to go to lap 40 just to be on the safe side. Let's see what we can do here. Rick with a fatal mechanical failure now.
I got no drive.
That sounds like engine, and it was smoking there for a second.
And what's that? A pit stop issue.
It's still smoking. It's still puffing. Huffing and puffing. Ocon has picked up a pit stop issue in Haas. Haas is not having a good year. At least not a good race here. Should probably give you an update on the standings of the teams. But yeah, you can kind of see it here. If we look at the Drivers' Championship, we're in the lead. The Constructors, we do need to kind of catch up a little bit, but it's very close. And in terms of the team in last, it's currently Alpine. So we might need to fix the Sergeant Schumacher crisis if we're unlucky. I need Alpine to score a point or two. But yeah, Danny Rick here does in fact retire. Nothing surprising about that. I'm just glad it got into the... Honestly, I'm not glad it got into the pit box. I needed a safety car. A safety car would make my job a lot easier. But we're going to keep on chasing down. We are now at the limit where I can start going full attack. Once our fuel is also back in the positive side, things are going to look a lot better. But how are we doing now for lap times once we actually start going full push? We gained 6/10 on that last lap. 44.8 here. We're almost gaining 2 seconds at the moment. We have another yellow flag. Schumacher. I mentioned him that I might have to deal with him next year, and he immediately binned it. Okay, he slightly brushed the wall. That's not too terrible, but it's also not great. Are we going to keep up these lap times? 44.6, 44.8, 44.7. Okay, so we're doing good here. We're gaining over a second a lap. There's 10 laps to go. We are a little bit too far behind, honestly, here to catch Sainz. He's just flying. We're 20 seconds behind him. But even if we don't catch him, I'd say we're still in a very, very good position to catch Piastri. And that would be the huge one. We're almost 2.5 seconds faster. Now, also here for Albon, his goal is going to be to catch Hamilton. There's just no way around it. Let's see if we can actually pull that off. We are nearing the end here as Yamamoto gets a pretty straightforward pass here with DRS on Leclerc. Nothing much to say about that. We're 2.5 seconds here with 4 laps remaining on Piastri, who has now picked up a little bit of an error. And honestly, it is looking very, very promising. Albon is catching Hamilton, and at the pace he's running, he might very well catch Rivas. 3.4 seconds gain on that last lap. 2 seconds-ish gain on Leclerc. 4 laps to go does give him very little time to get things done. But 5th place is on the cards here if we do things correctly. Now, for Yamamoto here, we're gaining about 2 seconds on Sainz per lap. We're a little bit too slow for that, unfortunately. It's just the way things are. But a pit lane start to 2nd is still very admirable, I would say. Albon gets the move done there. 5 seconds now to chase down Rivas. Again, I don't see us chasing down Leclerc. It's not happening. But we're gonna try and make the best out of this situation. I do also want Yamamoto here to just push everything that she has, get away from Piastri. And for Albon, I think we'll do the same for him. We'll push fuel. We'll deploy that ERS that we've saved up, and maybe, just maybe, we can catch down Leclerc too. That would be probably a bit of a dream scenario, but I can always hope. We are about to reach the end of the race here. We can see that we got close. 4 seconds here. It's what we were off on Sainz. For Albon, it is 4 seconds up to Leclerc. But all in all, I'd say this is a very acceptable race weekend. We do recover to 2nd place. We do end up getting 5th here. We didn't really need to get the pit lane starts here. But it was good to test them out. They do seem to work as advertised. The only issue would be, of course, what I mentioned with the bug with grid penalty, which we will probably serve next race for Albin, which is going to make my life a little bit harder. But as mentioned,
Everyone,
it does look like we kind of have this one in the bag. So
great job.
let's speed along to the next race. We'll see what Albin has to say about the grid penalty. And then we will see if we pick up the titles this season.
Have quite
So interestingly enough, I might have actually made a new bug. A more interesting bug. Because what has been reported has been that basically if you do a grid penalty and a pit lane start at the same time, you'll be getting a grid penalty next time around. Now, we're actually getting a pit lane start here with Albono, and I haven't done anything to in Park Ferme here. So this is very, very interesting because we might get a grid penalty for him in the next race again. So let's see exactly what happens there. For now, I'm gonna just simulate a couple of these races and we'll see if Red Bull causes us any pain. And then we'll do a quick summary before we talk about Albin's unlucky streak here that I've unfortunately put him on myself. So as it turns out, it gets worse. So I did get a grid penalty here for buying that new ERS. But let's go over how I created this situation for myself. I first did one pit lane break in Q2 to make sure that I could use the fresh ERS. I could buy a new one. And then I bought and equipped a new ERS. So I got 2 pit lane starts here for Albin and now a grid penalty. All for the crimes that I just committed. So that is kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. But it definitely does cause a couple of problems, because if you get a pit lane start, you're gonna assume that, oh, now I can change anything that I want for free. But I don't know if this was just because the way that I did things, I'm gonna have to test this. But this definitely does cause a lot of mayhem. If you can stack up, say, how many could I theoretically stack up? It probably just is one offense, no matter how many parts I change. But I have to do basically... I don't think I can stack up any more than 4 pit lane starts. I don't know if the grid penalties are going to also be applied to individual races, meaning that if I buy, say, a gearbox and after Q1, a ERS after Q2, an engine after Q3, does that also stack it? I don't know. But this could be fun. Like, we could build up enough pit stop penalties that they will carry over to next season if we go all in. So as you can see, we're United States here. We're going to do the sprint. Currently, we are in a little bit of troublesome situation. I'm probably going to just go through a couple more races and then I'll summarize it as we're getting close to the end of this year. Now, just when you thought things couldn't get worse, Albin picks up another penalty. So, yeah, the grid penalty applied to both the sprint and now the race itself. This is amazing. So the championship just got a little bit of spice there as Sainz finds the wall in Brazil.
My bad.
And that was not a good crash. Now, why am I saying this adds a little bit more spice?
frustration from the team.
Well, the reason is simple. Red Bull has had quite a few good races. And if we take a quick look at, say, the current standings, we're still in the lead of the Drivers' Championship. However, the Constructors is going to be a much harder fight. We have 60 points. We're in Brazil, which means that we are running out of races to close those 60 points. So Sainz crash here could be massive. We'll have to see how we're going to handle this issue, but definitely Sainz crashing it out here could be huge for that. And we'll have to see now if Verstappen can have a good quali. They did score more points than us in the sprint, which is a bit of a problem. They have generally been doing a lot better than us in the recent races too. So it could actually end up with us not getting Constructors. We are probably going to have to try hard both this and the last 3 races. So what I think is going to happen here is that unfortunately we're not finishing the season today, simply due to that issue, I'll be honest, because I don't think I can condense the last 3 races that we are actually going to have to focus on into what will probably be 10-15 minutes at the end of this video. So sorry for that. I do also have to get things sorted, but it is looking, and then we're getting interesting on it. Verstappen is in danger. He's in real danger. So if he does not improve on this lap, that could be really, really bad for the Red Bulls here in Brazil. He does have a green first sector though. I don't see him getting in trouble here. There's no cars really to get in his way either. But when you get no data, you really, really get a bad grip levels and generally really, really bad times. Purple middle sector though, I think that kind of sells it with Verstappen getting through here. He might even take provisional pole, and he did, similarly to us. So yeah, while it was a close hope there, it did not happen in the way that we would like. We are ready for Brazil, and we've actually qualified front row here with Yamamoto. You can see Albon a little bit further back here in 9th. Sainz is parked in the pit lane, which is going to make things a little bit spicy for us. Verstappen didn't have the best quality either. So this is our chance to close down that 60-point gap to something a little bit more manageable. On average, we need to actually get 15 points on the Red Bulls per race weekend to end up equal with them. Albon is honestly the weakest link here. We might get desperate and replace him, honestly, because you can see Yamamoto is fighting for wins basically every race weekend. We've had a couple of bad races where it's been 3-5 seconds behind the win, but Albon is not even getting anywhere close to that, so we'll have to make a decision at one point. That was a very aggressive defense there from Ocon. I think honestly the play here is just going to be to manage our tires for this one, try and make something out of this race. We honestly need Albon to get up there, catch up with the rest. There's a bunch of damage already: Gasly, Hulkenberg, Perez, and Tsunoda. So odds are we might get a safety car around here. So we're going to try and go along with most of our stints. Didn't take long until we had our first accident. It is Stroll here. Is this going to be an unsafe rejoin? No, actually, it's going to be a. It's going to be someone running wide and hitting him. So Schumacher in the Alpine, Stroll in the Mercedes has their first incident, and that gives a little bit of a freebie to Sainz, but honestly, nothing major so far. And we've had yet another incident here. This time it is Hamilton, and I believe that's Danny Rick. Ooh, lock up, and causes him some damage. No, please. Not like that, Hamilton. You can't say that. That's just like Russell's just turned in on me. You locked up and hit him, not the other way around. But yeah, that's another couple of freebies for Sainz. Let's be honest. Danny Rick here has the stories from wing. He does have terminal damage to something. Hamilton has major damage to something. It's not the front wing, so I would assume it's suspension. Maybe chassis or side pod. But already you can see kind of we are getting some spice here. And that does worry me here. We'll have to see how things are going to change. I would assume Hamilton's coming out again. Looks like he actually got rear wing damage and quite a lot of it. So he's kind of out of contention then. And they are sending him back out again. Is he being penalized? Danny record tires. Hamilton has a bit of a sad time in the pit stops. Albon is up to 4th now, ahead of Verstappen. It's looking very, very promising so far. We have our first pit stops here with Verstappen and Leclerc coming in side by side. And honestly, I think that is our cue to go full attack and destroy these soft tires. Basically, everyone is still running a huge DRS train. So we're going to try and build a little bit of advantage if we can as Albon gets pushed wide by his teammate. But not really much we can do here. Sainz is slowly making his way up to the point, so he did start on a hard tire. Leclerc, Rivas, and Verstappen has pitted. And they do have fresh air, so I don't think we are going to end up coming out behind them. It's just how things are going to be here. But I think the tire advantage that we're going to build it's going to end up basically to our advantage by the end of this. We do want to, if we can here, leave, say, Piastri Bottas behind, as we have Hamilton, who is going to get lapped a tremendous amount of times because he has railing damage. And that's going to make things quite spicy here. But yeah, we're going to destroy these softs and then we're going to pit ourselves. Shouldn't take more than probably one more lap. So I think if we pit Albert at the end of this one. And I do kind of want to put him on a hard tire, full attack. That is actually what we'll do. And basically this is what I'm going to be mirroring. That way we have a medium kind of saved towards the end if we need to. And we can be very, very aggressive on that hard tire. I think it is going to work out to our benefit here. But this is 4 cars running extremely close to each other. That is scary. And if we take a quick look here at the pit time, 23 seconds is what is expected. So we should come out behind Sainz, Leclerc, Verstappen, Rivas. But let's face it, Verstappen, Leclerc, Rivas, Verstappen, all of them are losing potential here because they're stuck behind Sainz and Paris. So far, this has actually worked to our advantage. The question now is going to be, can we pit in a way that we avoid that train? I don't think that's happening unless we have the pit stop of a lifetime here, 2.5 seconds. Where's Sainz? They are coming around the corner. But yeah, Albon is going to fall behind that medley of cars. I'm going to see if Yamamoto here, by pushing energy, is going to be able to avoid that. But it looks like Piastri is kind of destroying that idea. So that's a bit of a shame. A couple of seconds here behind that train. Verstappen is now leading it, which is less painful. But we'll have to see if we can actually convert to anything here. That's going to be the priority, of course. Okay, we are now in the pits. We have a 2.4 second stop, a little bit better. But we see Verstappen, we see Sainz, we see everyone fly by again. Needed a couple more seconds here to convert, and unfortunately we weren't able to do that. We're going to have both our drivers on the hard. They're going to be pushing. Let's see if we can catch Verstappen, Sainz, and make a little bit of a overtake here. We are getting increasingly closer to our final pit stop. Verstappen has actually gone for a hard tire here, which he will be on till the end, giving us a potentially amazing chance here to just run a light soft and destroy him, which would be amazing. And in terms of pit stop gaps here, we would come out basically where Sainz is. He still needs to pit again though, so I'm not worried about him. And when it comes to Albon, he's going to have a bit of a rougher time here. I would love for him to push and get ahead of this train, but looks like he once again is going to be stuck in a 5-man DRS train. And that is going to be absolute hell. But there's literally nothing I can do about it at this point. We don't have energy. We don't really have anything to do to solve that issue. Basically, all of them will need to pit at one point, though. That is the only saving grace, with the exception of maybe Leclerc. So, yeah, it's not looking great. Let's just put it like that. Now, for Yamamoto here, I think I might do... I think I'm going to pit, just to be on the safe side, because I would like to get ahead of this train. And we have already done more laps than anticipated. So let's just get it in there, get that sorted. And for Albon here, I thought they gave him, I saw the white inner and thought they gave him hards for a second. I was just like, did I just mess up? But yeah, as you can see, this is kind of what I was concerned about. We just end up in a DRS train, but actually we end up in a nice spot here with the 3rd car in the train, which means that I can actually sit with these guys for a little bit, have them help me heat up my tires, which probably sounds backwards, but it's true. You heat up tires a lot quicker when you're behind another car, and also recharge the battery just ever so slightly. Yamamoto, good stop, should come out ahead of Bottas, and then we can just chase down Verstappen and Piastri. If Piastri beats Verstappen here, that would be huge for us, so we are definitely praying for that. We are slowly going to heat up these tires. There's 8 seconds up to the top 2. We have 21 laps to do this. I think we are going to be perfectly fine, because as you can see, once we hit, well, probably 18, 19 laps, we can just go full attack, and that will solve a lot of our issues here. Albon is also looking good. He has pitted, as you saw. He is in 5th. He should be able to try and maybe get his hand on a get himself on the podium. Sainz down in 11th is still a threat. We'll have to see what we can do to deal with him. I'm curious though, how... Okay, so Sainz got a new gearbox for sure. Looks like the rest of his car survived. But yeah, we're going to manage for now. Let's see if we can close the gap here, get both our cars on the podium here, and maybe get a little bit of a closer fight in the last 3 races of the season. Final lap has begun here in Brazil, and unfortunately we've had a couple of problems with back markers that basically have said that you're not getting a chance to do this. We are within striking distance, but we have lost a good 5 seconds to back markers unlapping themselves with DRS. And that is making me quite upset, as you might imagine. Luckily, that Sauber got out of the way pretty easily, but it did definitely cost us the win here. It's going to make our fight a lot harder. For Albano, he's actually getting a bit of a podium here. And Sainz did probably one of the most amazing recovery drives. He's up into 5th. And unfortunately for us, no favors here from Leclerc by looks of it.
Okay, that's that. Well done, mate.
Which is very unfortunate. So let's take a look here and see where we're actually ending up in terms of positions. But we have actually tossed away probably good 21 points here from just bad finishing, which sucks massively, but it's just the reality of the situation. Rivas is still within our grasp. That's just true. But we only gained... Sorry, we actually lost 3 points, another 3 points to Red Bull. So, Constructors, we're going to need a miracle to pull that off next time around. And that miracle is going to be probably a little bit hard to come by. In terms of the drivers here, if there was a, last 3 races, try and steal someone potential, it would be to pay 100 million to nab Verstappen. Which would be hilarious in its own right. We could also try and nab Rivas. Piastri would be a cheap option. So as you see, we could potentially go all in. Get ourselves some better drivers. We could also steal Verstappen, which I don't think is going to happen. Sainz has no buyout fee, so we could also do that to mitigate the damage that Red Bull is doing to us. It's really cheap, but it's one of those things that you can do if you feel you are cornered. And to be fair, we are a little bit cornered right now because, let's face it, we would have already won this season's Constructors if we weren't so limited by Albon. He scored half the 8 points that Yamamoto's has scored. And you can kind of already see here just how vital those... Well, they were close at the season start, about 7 points. Just 7 points of overall can be insanely vital to your chance of scoring points. And in this case, it's definitely proven that way. Basically, the only difference between our teams here is actually Sainz versus Albon. But it's unfortunate. We will continue this next time, and hopefully then I can turn this around to a little bit of a miracle, because I kind of need to. 3 race weekends, we still have a sprint, and 60... No, it's not even 60, is it? Yeah, 61 points. Wish me luck, everyone. Let me know if I should do the cheesy thing and nab another driver, or if I should go all in on getting Albon a little bit of better performance here. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you next time. Apologies for taking me this long to get another ATHG episode out. Been a bit busy and a bit tired lately, but hopefully, and I do say this often, I'll have a little bit more time set aside in the future. Thank you for watching again. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.